Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and welcome to the episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. We'll be discussing playing a Narrative Badzone Enforcer gang for your next campaign of Necromunda. We'll discuss what a narrative gang is, the reasons for playing a narrative gang, and provide a 2,400 credit starting roster for your very first narrative campaign. And as always, there will be timestamps in the description box down below, so if you want to click and navigate to a specific part of the video, you can do so at your own leisure. So what are we doing in this video? In this video, we're going to be talking about playing a Badzone Enforcers because you like playing renegade cops in the depths of the Ash Waste. Are you fans of Law and Order in a world gone mad and you seek to bring justice in a world with no laws? And then the Badzone Enforcers are for you. At the same time, this will be a new exciting way to play a Necromunda campaign, so let's go and talk about exactly what this narrative roster is all about. Alright, so first of all, let's talk about what is a narrative roster. A narrative roster is an idea I've been cooking up for a while where it's basically a new way of playing. Necromunda is a wonderful game with all kinds of interesting stuff, with Narrative Badzone and special characters and skills, weapons and equipment, and all kinds of different things that makes this game such a fantastic skirmish game to play. The campaign setting is literally limitless and the different opportunities that you can have to play. So my idea was, what if you took some of those narrative aspects of the Necromunda lore and applied them to list building for our gangs? Now, in a narrative list, you'll be using Narrative Badzone as leaders as well as champions in your gangs, so long as it kind of fits with the overall narrative of what your gang is. Same thing with having access to certain skills, weapons, and war gear that may not normally be allowed in your gang as well, and the reason why we're doing that to add to that narrative flavor. This also applies to brutes, hang-arounds, as well as hired guns, which are not normally allowed in a starting roster, so that's what the idea of this whole narrative roster is. We're taking the narrative elements of the Necromunda setting with a specific gang and applying it to that starting roster. Now, the whole reason why you might want to play a narrative gang is because it's a fun new way to spice up playing Necromunda. It could also be the basis of a brand new narrative campaign. A narrative campaign is this idea I've been cooking up in my head about actually having a campaign setting where there's an actual storyline for each of the different gangs. The gangs are out to seek certain kind of objectives in this campaign setting, and that's pretty much how it would work in that campaign setting. The gangs that achieve their objectives, narratively speaking, are the ones that end up winning the campaign. And the idea was a nice little way to explore some of the lore and the endless fluff that is usually associated with Necromunda. Like I said before, Necromunda has a very rich and in-depth campaign setting with different characters, houses, guilds, criminal organizations, different levels and different factions all vying for control of this crazy planet. So I thought it would be really a cool idea in order to create those kind of campaigns around those little pieces of lore and have games to reflect that and to do this. The idea of a narrative campaign as well as a narrative roster is that you kind of focus more on fluff and lore rather than competitive play, and I'm going to try to design the lists around that so that way your starting roster does reflect that for the specific game that you're playing. And obviously, the biggest question should be asked, why should you play in every game? And my only answer is with another question, why not? There's a lot of cool things you can do in Necromunda and a lot of cool topics you can explore as well. This is a good way for beginners to learn how to play a game as well, and it could also be great for experienced players too, just in case you're looking for some new and interesting way to do this. Not only that, it could also be fun being an arbitrator of a narrative campaign because you got to create a narrative story, give different objectives for your gangs to try to accomplish, and earn points that way. It's also really fun for players to kind of build a backstory of why their gang is operating the way it is and how it's supposed to operate in the campaign setting, and it's a really cool idea as well. And I suggest giving it a try. I mean, why not? You could always see something new with this game system, and that's the wonderful thing about Necromunda. There's always new and cool ways of actually playing this game as well. I will give you a warning, however, no way in shape and form should you be using a narrative list like this if your arbitrator doesn't allow it for your campaign, just because I'm not following some of the official rules for the gang rule building rules that come with the game. And at the same time, these are also not really good for tournament play, but just keep that in mind as we go forward. So let's go ahead and talk playing about a Narrative Badzone Enforcer starting roster. We're going to be using the Aranthian succession rules to build up this list at 2,400 credits. That also includes doubling the number of champions if you want to. Now, this particular game will not be able to do so when it first starts out, but if you want to add some more champions later on as the campaign develops, feel free to do so. Now, the nice thing about this list, there's a good balance of shooting as well as close combat in this gang, so that part is kind of nice. I've also included vehicles in case you want to take this gang out into the Ash Waste. That's why it's built up to the full 2,400 credits. And the idea is I was trying to capture the the essence of a Badzone Enforcer gang. So some potential narrative ideas for actually playing this gang could be including that these guys are maybe out trying to patrol, trying to arrest certain gang leaders. Maybe they get campaign points that they manage to restrain a gang leader, for example, especially if that gang leader is an outlaw gang leader. That could be something you could also do as well. You could also try to do things like a settlement campaign where they're trying to establish a brand new precinct and they're slowly building up the resources to reinforce that precinct. And that would be a really cool narrative idea too if you want to do that for this gang. So with that being said, let's go and talk about exactly what individual fighters will make up with this gang in your narrative list. So first of all, for your very first dramatis persona in this gang, you're going to have the Ashwood Stranger. It's going to cost you 240 credits on this one. Now we're going to treat this guy as an outcast leader and giving him the survivor archetype. Now this is not an outcast gang by any means. Like I said before, this is a narrative build, so we're just going to use the outcast leader rules in order to make this guy the narrative leader of the specific gang. The narrative of the Ashwood Stranger from the lore of Necromunda is that this guy used to be a Paladin patrolman before he actually took down his own corrupt precinct and he was forced to go out into the wastelands where he just kind of exists. He's pretty much like a Mad Max type character. He actually goes on numerous adventures throughout the wasteland as well as the Underhive, helping out the downtrodden and helping people out, and that makes him narratively the perfect leader for a Badzone Enforcer's gang. Now what you're going to do for this character is that you're going to pay his original recruiting cost, which I believe is 170 credits, but you're going to give some additions to this character or make him a little bit more survivable in the battlefield. You're going to equip him with armored undersuit so that way he can also get that 5-up armor save in combination with his flak armor. He should have gotten this already as a Paladin Enforcer, but I guess they took that out because he is supposed to be kind of like an outcast or a banished kind of Paladin Enforcer. Now he does come with a custom stub gun with dum-dum rounds as well as a custom auto pistol with man-stopper rounds. So he's going to have reliable strength for shooting at close range with his weapons as well, and he automatically comes equipped with a nomad blade, and that's what's going to get to that cost for that character to make him have all these materials that he does have. Now he does also have a couple of skills that go with him. He automatically comes with the gunfighter skill, so because he doesn't suffer -1 hit, but he's doing the 2 guns blazing special rule. He also has fast shot, so he can potentially shoot up to 4 times with his pistols in a single activation because shooting is a simple action from him. And he also has the shooting skill, hip shooting skill, which means that he can take a double action where he can move up forward twice and still shoot with a -1 hit penalty. But given this character's ballista skill, that's not really going to be a problem for him. Now because he's going to be a survivor archetype character, you are going to give him the nerves of steel skill, which means that if he does get shot at, he can escape pinning by passing a cool test. This guy's got some amazing cool characteristics, so because of that, he's going to be able to survive that all the time and never be pinned. And if your opponent is intelligent, they're going to be putting a lot of firepower directly towards the Ashwood Stranger just because of how lethal he actually is. As the campaign develops, you might want to experiment with actually equipping them with a special weapon of some sort. Plasma gun would be kind of cool, same thing with grenade launcher, and of course just level them up accordingly to suit your particular playstyle. Your next fighter is going to be a Badzone Enforcer Sergeant number 1. He's going to cost you 270 credits. This character is going to have mesh armor for a 5-up armor save, as well as a heavy stubber for a heavy weapon. Now this character, of course, will have to fire this weapon as a double action, but so be it until you get enough credits to actually get him a suspensor of some sort. He's also going to be packing a stub gun as a backup weapon. He can also use it for close combat. He's also going to have photo goggles so that way he can see in all visibility conditions as well. That's going to be very important for you because he's going to be able to shoot out in the Ashways as well as the Underhive, and since you can't mount an infra sight on a heavy stubber, might as well give him the photo goggles to do that. And you're also giving him your Got Your 6 ability, which is kind of like operates a little bit like Overwatch. What ends up happening is if someone charges one of your allies within range, you can actually interrupt that person's activation and open fire with your heavy stubber, and that's going to be a really valuable skill for this guy. And as the campaign develops, of course, get him better shooting skills or whatever skills you think would be appropriate for your gang member to see exactly how they could fit your particular playstyle. Your next Badzone Enforcer number 2 is going to cost you 270 credits. This character is also armed with mesh armor for that 5-up armor save, as well as a web gun, so that way they got a reliable strength 5 hits with the template weapon on that. He's also got a stub gun with dum-dum rounds for a backup weapon, as well as photo goggles, so that way he can see in all visibility conditions, and you give this fighter the hip shooting ability. Like we mentioned before, that hip shooting ability is going to be really important because you can take a double action to move up forward twice and then open fire with your gun with a -1 hit against. But because the web gun is a template weapon, that's not really going to be an issue because template weapons automatically hit their targets. The web gun fits with this gang quite narratively because enforcers do want to try to arrest their targets, that way they can serve justice to those guys. The web gun's a perfect tool in order to do so as well. Plus this also makes us a really powerful shooting fighter to use in your assault fire teams when you decide to put them on the tabletop as well. And of course, as this character develops over time, maybe get him some more better armor or some kind of equipment to make it a little bit more survivable because your opponents will be shooting at him, and at the same time also develop his skills and his stats to fit your particular play style. So now it's time to talk about your specific gang fighters, and this is Badzone Enforcer number 1. This fighter is going to cost you 160 credits as well. This character also have mesh armor for a 5-up armor saved, as well as an Enforcer bolt gun for his primary weapon, so you gotta have some really good short to medium range shooting. He's got a stun gun for a backup weapon, as well as a photo goggle, so that way you can see in all visibility conditions as well. Now unfortunately, because you are playing a Badzone Enforcer patrolman, you do have to worry about the broken supply lines. Usually when it comes to Enforcer gangs, the Enforcer bolt gun and the Enforcer combat shotgun are really good weapons because they have reliable ammo rolls associated to them. With the broken supply lines, you will not actually have access to those ammunition stores anymore, so because that your weapons gain the scarce trait, which means that once you're out of ammo and you fail your ammo check, that's it, you're done. So that is something you do have to worry about as your campaign develops. There are certain ways you can of course go about getting around this, like getting vehicles with weapon stashes, which we're going to do for your gang specifically to kind of help out with that situation. So just keep in mind that you do have to worry about not being able to reload your Enforcer type weapons with this gang. Up next is Badzone Enforcer Patrolman number 2. This fighter is going to cost you 170 credits. This character has a mesh armor as well as a combat shotgun with salvo as well as shredder ammunition. They have stub gun for a backup weapon as well as a close combat weapon as well. They also have photo goggles, that way they can see in all visibility conditions, and just like your other patrolmen, they also suffer from the broken supply line special rule. So this guy does have the Enforcer combat shotgun, which is also really good. It's great for close to medium range shooting. That salvo ammo is dangerous at medium ranges, while the shredder ammo is perfect for as a template weapon, so you could definitely use that as well. My suggestion to this fighter, of course, as your campaign develops, get him better defenses and maybe give him a close combat weapon of some sort in order to protect them as well. And do be aware of that broken supply line rule because it can bite you if you're not careful. And the last area patrolman will be Badzone Enforcer Patrol number 3. This fighter is going to cost 150 credits. This fighter also comes with mesh armor as well as a sniper rifle with infra sight, so this person can be able to fight in all visibility conditions as well. They have a stun gun with his backup weapon as well as close combat, and he will be your gang specialist. Now, the nice thing about this character, he doesn't suffer from the broken supply lines rule because he's not using an Enforcer bolt gun or a combat shotgun, and plus the sniper rifles from the Enforcers is a really powerful weapon to shoot at medium to long ranges as well. This guy will be able to overwatch your gang and kind of protect it as your battles progress. Up next come your Badzone Enforcer enlisted hive scum. Now your gang can recruit enlisted hive scum to act as like your juvie level fighters for a Badzone Enforcer gang, and let's go ahead and talk about these guys. So the enlisted hive scum number 1 is going to cost you 145 credits. This fighter has mesh armor as well as a sawn-off shotgun for some good close range shooting. He's also got blasting charges for a powerful 5-inch strength 5 damage 2 blast template weapon. And he's also be equipped with the Waster's dirt bike, so that way if he goes out in the Ashwood, he can ride around on this thing, and he can also lob blasting charges at enemies and use a shotgun, the shotgun, to protect himself. And obviously if you're fighting in the Underhive, you can leave the dirt bike behind. Now this fighter does have the expendable conscripts rule, and basically what that means is that these guys, these enlisted hive scum, cannot be part of group activations just because they're being paid mercenaries to kind of fill in the personnel shortage that the Badzone Enforcers have. So you do have to keep that in mind, so do be aware of that if you decide to try to use these guys on the tabletop. Badzone Enforcer's enlisted hive scum number 2 is going to cost you 145 credits, and this character is armed with mesh armor as well as an auto gun, so they have a reliable long to mid-range shooting as well as short-range shooting as well with rapid fire. They're also going to be having blasting charges, so that way they can lob those huge explosive charges and destroy enemies, and they also have a Waster's dirt bike, so that way they can zip around the battlefield as well, and this person also suffers from the expendable conscripts special rule. The idea behind these enlisted hive scum that I pretty much decided to use these guys is kind of like as suicide bombers. They would zoom around the battlefield on their dirt bike, and then they would lob a blasting charge, and then of course use the weapons to kind of protect themselves. And as they're being used in the Underhive, they're kind of used as kind of like conscripts, so you can kind of like use them as human shields in order to protect your more valuable fighters. And that's the reason why these guys are equipped the way that they are. And your very last Badzone Enforcer enlisted hive scum number 3 is going to cost you 145 credits as well. This fighter is also armed with mesh armor for 5-up armor save as well as a last gun, so that way you have that good long through mid-range shooting. He's also got blasting charges as well as a Waster's dirt bike to do exactly the same thing, zip around that dirt bike, lobbing blasting charges left and right, and they also suffer from the expendable conscript special rule as well. Now, of course, as the campaign develops, you might want to get this character maybe an infra sight, for example, so that way they can see in all visibility conditions, maybe even upgrade the last gun to have a hot shot power pack, and that can actually make it quite deadly as well. So rounding out your modal pool for this gang, you're also going to have a Paladin Ranger. It's going to cost you 360 credits. Now Paladin Rangers are basically vehicle crews for Paladin Enforcers, and I'm not sure if it's kind of hazy on the rules on whether Badzone Enforcers can get these guys, but like I said before, since it's a narrative list, we're going to do that anyways. We're just going to include these guys. Now these guys also have photo goggles as well, so that way they can see in all of his building conditions, and they will also be driving a Tauros Venator, which is the new vehicle that's been unlocked for Enforcer gangs in Necromunda as well. It's going to have a weapon stash, and that weapon stash is going to be the most important thing in your gang because of your Badzone Enforcer patrolmen. If your patrolmen suffer from the broken supply line special rule, have those guys rally to this vehicle as quickly as they can, so that way they can reload their weapons, so that way they can, it's kind of like ransacking an ammo cache. That's pretty much what that will do for this vehicle. At the same time, this vehicle is also packing some heavy firepower with twin-linked concussion cannons. Those things are absolutely fantastic, especially for the concussion special rule against enemy vehicles. One of the things that I notice a lot about viewers on YouTube is a lot of people are really upset about the Gilded Coin Iron Crawler as well as the Gilded Coin Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler because those things are so hard to take down and to destroy. That's where the concussion weapons actually come into play. Concussion weapons force handling checks for your enemies. So aside from whatever damage you could possibly cause to those vehicles, you could potentially cause those vehicles to flip and roll if they fail a really bad handling check. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to see a lot of concussion weapons in this list to help you out. After all, I can imagine seeing this Paladin Ranger driving this Tauros Minotaur, chasing down an outlaw vehicle, and then boom, a concussion blast goes off from the cannon and flips the enemy vehicle over. Then they go in and they arrest whoever the person they were chasing. It's just something that narratively fits. And finally, rounding out your gang, you have a Stationer Pattern Automata, which is going to cost you 345 credits as well. Now, this fighter is going to have heavy carapace armor, so that way it's going to have a really powerful armor save. It's going to have a grenade launcher array that fires photon flash grenades. And for its two arms, you're going to replace one arm with an SLGH Pattern Assault Ram, the Sledge Ram. It's going to also have an auxiliary grenade launcher that fires both choke gas grenades as well as frag grenades. And the other arm is going to be replaced with a concussion cannon. Now, the reason why you're going to do that is because the Sledge Pattern Assault Ram is going to be perfect for close combat. It wrecks face when you hit people with it. Plus, it's also a grenade launcher that fires choke gas grenades, which are great, as well as normal frag grenades. At the same time, it'll also be able to fire those photon flash grenades from its grenade launcher array, which could deactivate enemy activations, which is always helpful as well. You might potentially want to upgrade this fighter to have crack grenades if you want to later on, so that way they can really cause some damage with those grenade launchers. And then lastly, of course, it does have a concussion cannon, which is a powerful weapon just by itself, but it's especially useful against enemy vehicles. At the same time, this fighter's also got the automated repair system so it can heal itself as the time goes on. It's also got mobile bulwark, which could really use as movable cover for your fighters, so that way they can take fire behind it. At the same time, it's also got your 6 special rules, so that way it can interrupt enemy charges by either using your concussion ram or a frag grenade fired from your auxiliary grenade launcher. So those are some things you could actually do with this thing. Have this thing take point, be the leader of your assault team when it goes forward as well, so that way it can cause all kinds of havoc. And I think that I can just imagine this thing kind of riding around the back of the Tauros, for example, when it's time to fight, it just kind of dismounts and goes. So in my head, it kind of just fits narratively as well. So in conclusion, building a narrative list is a fun and unique idea to try out new lists, different dramatis personae that you might not usually have access to, as well as setting up new challenges for yourself, as well as for your campaign as well. And like I said before in the introduction, in no way is this official at all, so I wouldn't recommend you taking these to any kind of official tournaments or any organized tournament play as well. Same thing with your arbitrator. Also double check with your arbitrator to see if they'd be okay with you actually making a gang list like this. And ask your arbitrator if you would like to do a narrative style campaign. It could be something really cool. It could be something really cool to try out in your gaming groups and to try out new campaigns, so give it a try. And if you do decide to play this way, please let me know down in the comments box down below. I'd love to hear some of the comments and feedback you guys have about using the different lists I create, as well as some future other campaign ideas that I have coming down the pike. And of course, I'll bring up more videos about this topic as time goes on. And as always, recommendations for any narrative list will be welcomed. I'm actually planning on making a narrative list for pretty much every single faction in Necromunda, so I do have my work cut out for me, and I'll be uploading those videos on a regular basis, so keep an eye out for that to make sure you catch up to learn the newest and latest narrative lists for whatever particular faction you would like to play. So that's good for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this video, guys. We will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.